What's up, guys? It's TLS here. Welcome back to Guild Wars 2 Path of Fire. It is the demo weekend, or the beta weekend, about a month before the release of the expansion for Guild Wars 2 Path of Fire, and we are able to test out elite specializations. In this video, I will be looking at the Guardian elite specialization of the Firebrand. Now, I gotta admit, I wasn't really excited about the Firebrand. I didn't think much of it until I started, preparing for this video and taking a look at what it could do, and I was really impressed. Super excited for what Firebrand has to bring. However, this is going to be a very long video because there's a lot to bring to the table. Whereas most classes, we're dealing with a full set of new utility skills and maybe anywhere from 3 to 5 new weapon abilities. With the Firebrand, we're dealing up to 18, so it is going to be a very long video. I will try to go through it as quickly as possible. However, there is a lot to cover. So, let's go ahead and get straight into it and take a look at the talent tree for a Firebrand. So, as you can see here, Firebrand is given the ability, the elite specialization is given the ability to use axes. And it's just axes in the main hand, because the whole idea is that you're using a tome in one hand and an axe in the other. So it's just going to be an axe in the main hand, and we'll get to that when we get down to the training dummies. And then this is the first ability that basically gives everything that's a part of the elite specialization. It's called Purity of the Word, and I'm going to reword this a little bit because I don't really like how they worded this. So you gain knowledge of Elonian lore, igniting a fierce drive to purge corruption and causing your virtues to manifest as mystic tomes. So, basically, as it was with Dragon Hunter, basically your tomes are going to kind of change a little bit. Not your tome. Your virtues are going to change a little bit into something a little different from what you're used to. However, in this case, they're going to be changing into tomes that actually get their own set of abilities that you can use. And that's what makes, the Firebrand so interesting, is you basically are getting a whole new set of abilities, very much akin to an Elementalist and their conjured weapons. So it's going to have charges, etc., and we'll get into the, minutia of it and everything that you should know about it. But basically, that's what you need to know, is that you're getting tomes, and everything will be built around that. And you also have access to mantras as well. Now, mantras aren't my favorite, and they have changed a little bit, so I will have to kind of go over a little bit of mantras when we get to that as well. But for now, let's go through the talent tree, and then we'll get to the mantras, and then we'll jump down to the training dummy to finish up the mantras, look at the axe skills, and then finally look at all of the tomes, the 3 tomes, and each of their set of 5 skills. So there's a lot to go through with the Firebrand, and it's part of the reason why I'm so excited. So you see the first ability here, and I know it says it shows more info, but it's just showing the different tomes. In the first tree here, we have Unrelenting Criticism, which is axe skills gain a chance to inflict bleeding. Symbol of Vengeance now dazes on its initial strike. Symbol of Vengeance is your axe number 2 ability. So just so you have that for information. There's Liberator's Vow, grant allies quickness when you use your heal skill, so that's pretty self-explanatory. And then the third one is Archivist of Whispers, and your virtues gain additional pages. So to explain that, let me click off of this real quick. You can see down here there's 5 tome pages. Basically, tome pages work just like charges for Elementalist conjured weapons. You only have so many charges before the conjured weapon breaks, you can no longer use it. Well, that's going to be basically the way it is with tomes. Tomes will have 5 charges until, and then the tome will go on a recharge for that. And you can upgrade it to 3 additional pages, which I'm going to take because I will need it when I show this to you later. In the second ability we have here, we have Swift Scholar. Equipping or stowing a virtue grants you quickness. Now, it's a little confusing when they say stowing a virtue. They mean stowing a tome, because you can use only 2 of your 5 pages or 2 of your 8 pages, and then you can stow the tome and make it go on a cooldown early. So It's a little bit difficult here with the wording, just like the wording on the first one, so maybe they'll work that out. But basically, that's what they mean by equipping or putting it away will grant you quickness. In the second tree here, we have weighty terms. The final charge of mantra skills inflict immobilize. Mantras gain reduced recharge. There's stalwart speed. When you grant aegis or stability, grant quickness. Um, and lastly, there's legendary lore. Tome skill gain bonuses from scribbling in the margins by ancient bards. That cracks me up every time I read it. So basically, each one of these abilities you see here, outgoing burning stacks, regen, aegis, they all have apply to each of the three individual tomes of justice, resolve, and courage. So that's what they apply to. The third ability here is Imbued Haste. Gain increased attributes while affected by quickness. This middle talent, the second skill, you're going to get quickness in a lot of locations with a Firebrand. So this is actually really great to have. Condition damage, healing power, and toughness all increased by 250, which is really nice. In the third talent tree, we have Stoic Demeanor. Inflict slow on your foes. Inflict slow on foes. You disable or immobilize. Disables include stun, daze, knockback, pull, knockdown, sink, float, launch, taunt, and fear. In the second one, we have Quick Fire. Granting quickness to an ally also grants Ashes of the Just. Ashes of the Just is actually it's a tome ability. It's a fifth tome ability of the Tome of Justice, the Fire Tome. So we will get to that later. But basically, this is an ability that allows you to apply Ashes of the Just to everyone you grant quickness to. And as I said, quickness, you can be able to apply quickness a lot. Last one is Lore Master. Tome skills gain reduced recharge, retain virtues passives while they are on cooldown. So the passives are still all the same, just like they normally are for tomes, but in this case, basically, when your tome goes on cooldown after you use it, you'll still get those passes back up that you normally would have. And then the tome recharge is also decreased, which is really nice to have. So that is a talent tree. I'm going through it as quickly as I can. I'm going to be trying to speed through a lot of this as quickly as possible because there's a lot to go through. So let's go straight into virtues. And first, let me go ahead and bring up any of the virtues that deal with basically not damage. So we'll deal with these first. Not virtues, excuse me, mantras. So we're dealing with mantras, with the utility skill that's coming along with the elite specialization of Firebrand. And mantras have kind of had an overhaul in Path of Fire. The way it was before was you basically charged up a mantra and you had 2 charges of it, and when those 2 charges were gone, you had to recharge the mantra. ArenaNet finally decided that that wasn't very good, and it kind of stunk, so they decided to change it. And it's for the better. Basically, you charge up your mantra, and I'm going to use the healing one as an example. You charge up the mantra, and I have 3 charges, and I can use one of them immediately, and we'll start recharging it until after a certain amount of time. The recharge for this one looks like 12 seconds. It brings back my charge, so I'm back up to 3 charges. However, if I expend all 3 of them right after one another, it goes on the longer cooldown, it goes on the longer cooldown, and then we have to recite the mantra again to prepare the charges. So that's a 30-second cooldown if you actually burn through all your charges. Otherwise, it's only a 12-second cooldown on the charges. However, one little change for the Firebrand compared to the other mantra users in the game. They've changed it so that each mantra, your basic one, so your first few charges are kind of like okay, like they deal decent healing or damage, but your final one has increased potency. And so that's what we'll go through. So starting with this one, we have the Mantra of Solace, which gives you Restoring Reprieve. You gain health and grant Aegis to your allies in front of you. So it's a self-heal and you grant Aegis. However, if it is the last charge of the mantra, it'll become Rejuvenating Respite, and you gain significant health, which is it's about double what you would get normally. and it also grants the Aegis as well. So increased healing on the last one. So once again, I'm going to charge it so you can see it, and I'm just going to show it to you so you can see just what it looks like. It looks really nice. It's this little cone in front of you. So right here we have mantra or mantra of lore. Recite a ritual of cleansing, removing conditions, and speeding recovery. The basic one is opening passage. Recite a cleansing word, purifying allies of conditions and helping them recover. You have a 5-second regen and conditions remove 2. And then the final charge, so if it's the last one, is clarified conclusion. Recite the concluding passage, converting corruption into enhancements for your allies and aiding them in their recovery. So the regen was doubled, same amount per tick, but its length was doubled. And instead of the conditions just being removed, the conditions are converted into boons, so it's a lot better. Now, I will say a lot of these mantras, they all kind of look the same, so I'll just use them right here just so you can see. They're in a cone in front of you, and that's how all of them are. The third one we have here is Mantra of Potence. We have recite a hymn from the annals of Turai to hasten yourself and allies. I never even said what the other ones. The mantra lore is recite the ritual of cleansing, removing conditions, speeding recovery, and prepare to heal yourself and grant allies Aegis. So there was nothing. I thought I missed something there, but there isn't. So mantra of potence, recite a hymn from the annals of Turai to hasten yourself and allies. Potent haste, inspire allies before you're enhancing their speed and strength. There's the quickness generation that you're going to like with the tree that we looked at, the talent tree that we looked at earlier. Quickness for 2 seconds, might for 6 seconds. And then the last one is overwhelming celerity, inspire allies before you, greatly enhancing their speed and strength. Quickness is increased to 4 seconds and might is increased to 8 stacks. So I'll go ahead and use this here. And I'll use all three. I'm going to use the first two really quickly, and you can see I have 10 stacks of might right there. And I use the last one, I have 18 stacks because the last one gives 8 and it gives 4 seconds of quickness. So that's a lot nicer. So those are the first 3 tomes. Let's look at the elite tomes. Mantras. Those are the first 3 mantras. I keep getting all the words mixed up here for a Firebrand here. Let's look at the elite mantra before jumping down to look at the last 2 mantras available to us. This is Mantra of Liberation. Echo Remnants mantra. Echo remnants of an ancient pamphlet from Bobby. I believe it's pronounced Bobby. Sorry if it is incorrect. That urged Elonians to freedom. Grant stability and swiftness to allies while breaking the stun. The first one is Portent of Freedom. I didn't even know portent was a word, but apparently it must be, or it's a misspelling. Hints of freedom echo around, stabilizing and breaking stuns on you and your allies. So stability for 5 seconds and retaliation for 6 1/4. The final version of this is your whispers is unhindered delivery, and it is your whispers guard allies, stabilizing and breaking stuns on them while weakening enemies. So retaliation for 6 1/4 is still there. Stability is still there for 5 seconds, but it's 3 stacks of stability instead of just 1. And it also grants swiftness on yourself. I don't know where the weakening enemies comes from. Maybe it's just a typo or something, but that's what the stats are given to it right now. So we'll go ahead and use it right here so you can see it. And we'll go ahead and use them right now. Once again, in a cone in front of you. Really nice. So with that, let's go ahead and head down to the training dummies down here. Because of the changes that they made to the PvP area, I can no longer have a secluded place to show you stuff anymore. Instead, I get hounded by all these other people. So the first one here is going to be, well, let me switch to this real quick. So we have this. So first we have Mantra of Flame. Prepare a chant to sear your enemies. Flame Rush. Unleash a flame. Unleash a wave of purging fire in front of you. Deals fire damage basically. And then Flame Surge, the final version, which is unleash a powerful wave of flame, which gives 3 stacks of burning instead of just 1. So going to use it here. And once again, it's very similar. I'm just going to use it As you can see, it's just burning stacks in a cone in front of you. The last one here is Mantra of Truth. Prepare the tenets of truth to debilitate your foes. Let's see if we can jump out of combat here so we can see all of them. The first one is Echo of Truth. Recount a truth to the enemies in front of you, inflicting them with conditions. So they have Cripple for 5.5, Weakness for 5.5, and Blindness for 5.5. And then the final is Voice of Truth, which is reveal a harsh truth to the enemies before you, devastating them with conditions. So in addition to what you got earlier, the weakness and blindness have had their durations doubled to 11 seconds. The cripple has been removed and replaced with a 2 3/4 immobilize, which is pretty good, and you also get 5 stacks of vulnerability. So we'll go ahead and use it here, and then you'll see just how much we can pile on this poor light golem here. Pile it on right there. And that's all of them. So those are the 6 mantras that are available to you as a Firebrand. I wasn't a big fan of mantras, but considering the changes that they've made, it's not too bad, in my opinion. So, with that, let's go ahead and look at the 3 axe skills that are available to us. The first is going to be your basic attacks, which is Core Cleave. Cleave at your enemy with a physical and magical axe, damage and bleeding. Bleeding Edge is your second. Slice to the foe again, physically and magically, as your weapon is heating up. Damage and bleeding again. And then lastly, Unleash a Searing Axe and an overhead slash, following it up with a magical edge, damage, and burning. There's a lot of burning involved with this. And there's 3 targets on all of them, so it is kind of a cleave. So we'll go ahead and use it right here. As you can see, the little magical axe is going all over the place, which is really nice. And I'll go ahead and show us right. The effects are really beautiful. You can see the magical axe just going through right there. So that's really cool. Second ability here is Symbol of Vengeance. Cleave your axe into the ground, reducing enemy movement and carving a razor-sharp symbol of vengeance. So this is another symbol. However, caution to all guardians out there. The awkward thing about this symbol is most symbols either were underneath you or they were targetable. This one's in front of you. I could be wrong. Maybe there's one out there that I've forgotten about that isn't that way, but this one's a little awkward for me, so I'm going to use it. It's right in front of me. You cast it, and then there you can see it launches in front of me as opposed to being underneath me like some symbols or targetable like the others. And the last ability here is Blazing Edge, which is conjure a magical axe to rake your enemies towards you. So it's just a pull. I'm going to pull him in there, which is pretty nice. Only a 600-yard range, but still, it's a pull, which is nice. So, with all of that, we can finally move into the tomes. Now, one thing to know about the tomes. As you can see here, all of the passives are still there. So, your virtues are still there. Burn foes with every few attacks, regenerate health, gain ages periodically. That's all still there. It's when you activate them that they become like charges for your like a conjured weapon is for an elementalist. Now, I will say, each one has 5 abilities. Each one of these 5 abilities share the same targeting mechanism as the other 2 tomes. So that's to make things easier. So if ability 3 is an AoE target ability, it's going to be an AoE target ability for all 3 tomes. Your number 1 ability is an AoE cone in front of you. That's going to be the same for all 3 tomes. So it's going to be the same for each one, which makes things really nice. So let's go ahead and start with Tome of Justice. As you can see, I have all these pages around me, which is really cool. The first ability is Chapter 1 Searing Spell, fueled by tales of destruction fueled by tales of the desolation in Istan, incite a great swelling of heat before you, which is basically just burning damage. So as you can see there, big cone of flame in front of you, which is pretty cool. And as you can see, one of my tome pages went away. I'm going to use it again, and now I'm down to 6. So I have 6 charges until the tome pages run away. Now, these recharge every time I enter a new tome. So it's not like, I burn through all of them in one tome and I have to wait for them to recharge for the next tome. That's not the case. They just That's how many charges are given when I enter that tome. So that's how many charges are given for that specific tome. The second ability here is Chapter 2, Igniting Burst. Ignite the air around you in an expanding burst. So this is an AoE around you. Deals burning damage and weakness. So we'll go ahead and use it right here. As you can see right there, it's just a burn around you, which is pretty nice. We'll back out a little bit so people can see. There we go. Really nice. Third one is a targeted AoE. Heated Rebuke. Call forth a heated vortex to collapse your enemies together. So I'm going to go ahead and use this right here. You just use the pretty decent sized AoE targeting. So we'll go ahead and use it right there. And it drags them to the center. And because they're training dummies, they like to pop back. I'm going to go ahead and kill both of these before moving into the last tome again. It'll recharge. As you can see, it's recharging pretty quickly. And as you can see, I can enter another tome, and it'll fill up all the pages right away, but I can put that away. And the tome pages will go away, and that one will go on cooldown, but it does not affect the cooldown of the Tome of Justice. So, back into the Tome of Justice, looking at the fourth ability, we have Chapter 4, Scorched Aftermath. Detail the suffering in fire and blood inflicted during Vabi's occupation. Damage, bleeding, and burning. Pulses 5 seconds, duration 4 seconds, in an interval of 1 second. So 5 pulses over that duration of 4 seconds. This is a large AoE area, so this is really cool. I really like the number 4 ability on all the tomes. So here we go. As you can see there, massive fire, really cool effects with everyone all the way around. You're going to be dealing with a lot of fire, a lot of quickness with a Guardian Firebrand. It's a lot of fun. So, with that, we have the fifth ability, which is Epilogue, Ashes of the Just. I talked about this a little bit in the talent tree. Here it is, basically. Recall the memory of the fallen heroes, granting allies searing blades of justice. I made the stupid mistake when I was first looking at this that it was just for yourself, but it's actually for all your allies. So, I can come up here, and it's in a 600 radius around me, and I can use this right here, and it gave it to both this guy, Deuce Vault, and I don't even know who it is. I'm not even going to pronounce his name, forget it. Andy Salad. That's an easy name to recognize. There we go. I just gave Andy Salad Ashes of the Just. So his next 3 attacks will burn with justice and deal burning damage. So that is pretty nice. So with that, let's move on to the next tome, which is the Tome of Resolve. Draw forth an enchanted tome that recounts the trials undergone by the people of Vabi.
Knowledge is power.
So, here we go. This is the healing one, though. Chapter 1, Desert Bloom. Tales of Desert Blooms create a wave of healing for your allies. So basically, we can go through, we can heal people with it, and as I mentioned, it's a cone in front of you, just like the first tome was a cone in front of you. The second one, Chapter 2, Radiant Recovery. Release magic from pages detailing the rebuilding of Vabi, cleansing conditions on nearby allies. Allies are healed for each condition removed. So we'll go ahead and use this. As you can see, I spin around, and it's a small little radius around myself. The third one, Chapter 3, Azure Sun. Inspired by countless poems describing the comforting powers of the water-reflected sun, grant boons to allies. So we'll go ahead and grant boons to... we'll do it to test rest here. Grant boons to him. And there you go, right there. Nice AoE, and he gets all those boons right before he pieces out. We'll go ahead and use it again over here on Sand Scare. It's got decent range. I believe it's 900. Nice spell visual effects, and it is a 900 range, just to make sure. Chapter 4, Shining River. Release a torrent of pages describing the water cycle of the Elon River. Heal allies and grant them swiftness. So here we go. I'm going to use this right here near Andy Salad. It's a large AoE, just like the other one. Pretty useful ability. I really like it. And then last is the Epilogue, Eternal Oasis. Purify your allies with the waters of Amnun and increase the healing they received. So increasing their healing and conditions converted to boons 3. So right here, as you can see, I just hit him with it. He's got increased healing received, and he had conditions converted to boons if he had any. So that's pretty nice. Go ahead and use the rest of these tome pages before moving into the Tome of Courage. Conjure a mystic tome containing stories about the heroes of Istan. This is the last tome. Um, Looking at the first ability, Chapter 1, in Unflinching Charge, roused by tales of mythical Sunspear charges, ground and motivate allies before you. So this gives stability and swiftness. So I can go forth and in a cone give stability and swiftness in front of me. So out with the staff and in with the tome. I have a feeling people are going to be using this to quickly navigate before, unlike the staff, the stave that they've been using in the past to move around. So that'll be interesting. The second ability here is Daring Challenge. As the tales recount of Turai, taunt your enemies by issuing an insightfully inciting challenge. So once again, it's kind of a small radius, but there you can see it right there. Ability number 3 is Chapter 3, Valiant Bulwark. Manifests the shimmering purity of the desert sun, reflecting enemy missiles. This can be very good with a siege. It's a 900-yard range, so I mean, just imagine a siege at this barrel right here. And I can plop it right down, and all projectiles will be covered right there, which is pretty nice. Doesn't last for the longest time, but the uptime on it can be actually pretty significant. It lasts for 5 seconds, and then you only have a short cooldown left before you can protect again. So that's going to be really useful. Chapter 4, Stalwart Stand. Recount the stand of Elonian loyalists against Palawa Joko, granting resistance to your allies. So I'm going to go down here and use this. You can see what it looks like. It's actually one of the coolest looking abilities right there. I'm going to show it to you one more time. There you go. That's really cool looking. And then the last one here is Epilogue, Unbroken Lines, recalling the memory of heroes past, enchant nearby allies with formidable defenses. It gives them protection, retaliation, stability, and Unbroken Lines, which is 300 toughness, which is pretty amazing. So, let's see if someone can, like, not move for a little bit here. This guy's been standing here forever, so we'll go ahead and use it right here. And there it is, and as you can see, he has all those buffs up there, including Unbroken Lines, so it is a nice buff to give all of your allies straight off the bat. So, that is everything with the Firebrand. I'm sorry the video was so long, but there's so much to go over with this Elite Specialization, dealing with 18 abilities basically, instead of the 6 or 7 that the other classes have to deal with. There's a lot of fun. I can see people just running all over the field. Just you can almost like kind of stance a little bit, kind of like an elementalist between the healing and the defensive and the actual damaging abilities of the tome, going back and forth between the three, and you know, tearing it up depending on how you decide to build yourself. Because remember, there's a lot of quickness that you're able to dish out as well. So really excited for Firebrand. I wasn't originally, and then I started looking at things and I was really impressed. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I apologize it took so long, but with the length comes a lot of really cool stuff for Guardians in Guild Wars 2 Path of Fire. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you guys in the next video. Tearless out. See ya.